All right, we're back. Thank you. Welcome back, everybody. Still doing introductions with various organizations, directors, and such. We have Steve Howard. He's the executive director of the Vermont State Employees Association. He is here to do a general hi, how you doing? This is what we do, and he has provided us the bullets on the 2025 legislative agenda, which can be found on our committee page documents. Director, how are you?
I'm well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you said, I'm Steve Howard. I'm the executive director of the Vermont State Employees Association. And I am here representing over 6,000 public employees in the executive branch, judiciary, state colleges, the housing authority, the transport deputies, the office of the state's attorneys, I think of the Defender General's office, and so on and so on and so on. And I've been in this job for about 12 years. And prior to that, I was fortunate enough I grew up in Rutland, and I served in the legislature for 12 years from both Rutland Town and from Rutland City. So I'm happy to be here today, and I appreciate the opportunity to just come share with you a little bit about who we are and focused on this year. I do apologize to Autumn because my colleague Tom Avenor is out today, and this is on his laptop. So I'll have to have him email it to you when he's back amongst us. But we have a couple. We're really focused on the things you see listed on the agenda that was emailed to the committee. But one of the issues, I guess, the way we look at government operations is, and the way we look at our role in the State House, is the governor was hired by the people of Vermont to run the state. And the Government Operations Committee is here to make sure that he is running the agencies well. And it's our job to raise concerns that our members bring to us from the front lines when we think things are not going. And one of those places and one of those examples that I just want to call to your attention, because we describe it as a humanitarian crisis. And that is the severe and chronic understaffing in the Department of Corrections. We hope this committee will pay a significant amount of time, energy, and attention to that issue, perhaps in conjunction with your colleagues on the Corrections Committee. I have some information that I'll share with you, just the data that we put together. Hopefully I have enough.
Yeah, no, I will say early in the session that I have a different perspective on hard copies than my predecessors.
Oh, what's that?
They did not like them. I am fine with them. They wanted everything digital. So if you want to do paper, I am okay with that.
Hey, this is my only option. I happen to have these in my briefcase, so let's see if I can get that over now. There we go.
And I have chatted briefly with Chair Emmons about some of the DOC stuff, which I think you're about touching on, but we have been slightly conversational. So
yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, we're facing a situation where we're getting calls from our members who are getting bathroom breaks and who are having to change their uniforms because nobody came to relieve them. They're very concerned that if they can't get somebody to help them with the bathroom break, that if there's a serious incident, nobody's going to come to help them. I got a call the other day from a spouse who calls her partner, her husband, when he leaves the facility as an hour commute. Housing is expensive, as folks know, so a lot of people live with significant distance from their work site. To make sure he has somebody talking to him so he stays awake. And she called me frantically because on this particular morning, while she was talking to him, he fell asleep and drove off the side of the road. Talked to another member who has replaced 4 bumpers on his brand new car because he keeps falling asleep. They're working 16-hour shift after 16-hour shift after 16-hour shift. We think it's a public safety and public health emergency. And we hope that the legislature will help us really convince the administration that this is something that they have to come to the table and work with the SEA to solve. It's really an urgent situation. So I wanted to raise that for you as a particular issue of concern. We have a number of other things that we're concerned about and working on this year that may come to this committee. Certainly staffing and DOC and across state government is a serious issue. DCF, people may have heard about DCF and what's called a high-end system of care. Since the closure of the Woodside rehabilitative facility, we have no place to bring kids who are either justice involved or who are in the custody of DCF and who need to be in a secure facility. We don't have any place to bring them. So often, those youth are being released back into the community because there's no safe place for our members to monitor them. And what's happening as you go out and talk to family service workers is they tell you, look, I work a full-time job during the day. I work my time during the day with a very heavy caseload. And then I am called to sit at night with the youth who would have normally been watched by a residential counselor. I was not trained to be a residential counselor. I was trained to be a caseworker. And so what's happening is people are quitting, they're leaving. The job market offers many opportunities for people, and they're not going to work around the clock in very stressful jobs for months and months on end. So those are a couple of examples of issues that come under the purview of both human services and government operations they're really important. Safety and security. We are continuously hearing from our members of concerns about the safety of state buildings. And in particular, there is a concern about the ability, I didn't realize this, but I don't know if I guess this would come under government operations. Maybe it's in institutions as well, but our members are hopeful that we can take what is now a rule and put it into statute that you are prohibited from bringing a firearm into a state building or around a state building. We had an incident in White River Junction this year with in the state office building where our members, DCF and corrections, are both located in that office building. They look out the window and they see it's a gentleman cleaning an automatic weapon on, ironically, the Lara Sobel Memorial picnic table, and who didn't understand that. I mean, they didn't know what that guy was doing and why he was there and why he had that weapon. But because he was there and kept returning, that building had to be locked down. We had to send law enforcement to stand at the entrance. The services to Vermonters were delayed because they had to go through added security. And our members really feel like it's hard to do their job when they're not sure what that guy was doing there and why he's coming back. And it's not an isolated concern. We're seeing that in our courthouses. We're seeing that all throughout state government, where we are finding a need for attention on safety and security. Pensions.
Actually, tap the brakes right there on the pensions real quick. So have you been hearing things with the safety and security in and around your members? I've been hearing chatter about folks who work for state government, who more than likely are union members of yours, having difficulties with Vermonters in their social media pages because of work that they do. Have you heard anything about that being, I'm actually going to say harassed just based on the things I've heard anecdotally, given what their charge, what their duty and role is with the state, and then, lack of a better term, catching fire from advocacy groups or the public regarding their work on their personal social media?
Yes.
Okay.
It's been particularly acute around the motel voucher, the end of the motel voucher program. Mm-hmm. Our members carry out the policies that the administration asked them to carry out. They don't make the policies. And unfortunately, they are the ones who are held. They receive the brunt of the anger from Vermonters who feel they're not being well served by whatever the policy is that has been put in place. And so what we are hearing from our members is that they feel a certain kind of way about the characterization that the delays on the phone or the delay or the responses that Vermonters get are somehow the responsibility of the frontline worker. The issues that are upsetting Vermonters, that are causing them to go on social media and attack frontline workers, are often the decisions that policymakers make, that managers implement, and that our members carry out just by virtue of doing their job. So it creates an added level of concern about their safety. It also demoralizes them. It is how, I mean, I think what we hear from it, particularly from in economic services and DCF is, you know, sometimes you have somebody sitting in front of you with children and they need housing and they don't qualify. And you have to tell them, sorry, I can't help you. That's a hard thing to do day after day, 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So people quit, they leave, they ultimately have to take care of themselves in many cases, or they don't, and they suffer the ramifications of that. So that is happening in unfortunately in an escalated amount of escalated number of incidents.
Okay, so yeah, I've heard that out of that those divisions, those areas of state employee, but I've also heard it out of Fish and Wildlife too.
Yeah, that is also happening.
If that's not on your radar, you might want to go.
Yeah, that is on my radar.
And that one, that's another one
Yeah.
where I have had some chatter with some folks in and around that, where much like what you laid out,
Yeah,
kind of the same thing over there.
and when they're out, they're being harassed while they're out in the woods,
Yeah.
just doing their job.
Yep.
And, you know, it's not to say that our members never make mistakes. Sometimes they do, we all do.
Humans are gonna human.
That happens, but when they're doing the job that they were told to do, that they were hired to do, and they're getting the brunt of, they're being harassed by the public, who are upset with the policy, it's hard for our members to, you know, to really manage that after a while. Our members have a very sincere and honest commitment, and, you know, Representative Hooper, a longtime state employee, former president of the SEA, I think would agree with this. They have a commitment to the mission that they were hired to carry out. They feel committed to the public and to delivering the services that the public needs in the most efficient way they can. They often feel frustrated by the policies that are put in place, often without their input, or the way in which the program is managed, because they get the brunt of the public's concern about that.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to bring up that other piece.
Sure.
It is something that we plan on touching on as we talk about hiring, vacancies, employee retention, workplace satisfaction, safety, etc. So definitely be ready to speak more in depth with that dynamic, because I find it very, very troubling that these employees are being harassed at that level.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
just want to touch quickly on pensions, which
Yeah, please.
this committee has had a huge role in over the years, and has a huge role in the pension discussion. The pensions are a major reason why people come to work for the state and keep working for the state as long as they do. I think we found during the last pension debate and discussion here that you saw the passion that you heard from our members about how valuable that pension is to them. We have a couple of things we'd like to see improved with the pension this year. One is to update the law that provides service credit for military service if you are in a direct conflict. We haven't updated the statute since Vietnam. And since then, we've had a number of conflicts and a number of state employees who have served in battle in those conflicts. And so if you were in Vietnam doing the same thing as somebody who served in Afghanistan or Iraq, you get the credit if you're in Vietnam, but you don't get the credit if you were in Afghanistan or Iraq or anything after Vietnam. And so we're interested at least in getting, I think it's a $25,000 study of the actuarial impacts of expanding that to all of the conflicts that our members might have served in.
is the other language being introduced to address such?
I believe it is, yes. Yeah, I think that is forthcoming. and it's definitely something we've talked to the treasurer about. The other thing is, we were very happy in that discussion to create, to work with the legislature to create a new retirement plan for the corrections department and for the mental health frontline workers in the Department of Mental Health. They're working at the facility up in Berlin or at River Valley in Essex, that allows for a full retirement at age 55. The hope is, it has always been to have a plan, this is Group G, that is comparable to what law enforcement has in Group C, which would be a lower contribution rate. Group C has a lower contribution rate than Group G. Group C is at around 9%. Our members in Group G are almost at 12%. And we'd also like to see the same parameters around retirement. If you're in Group G, it's 20 years of service in corrections or in the Department of Mental Health, dealing directly with an inmate or patients at age 55. If you're a law enforcement officer, you can get a full retirement after 20 years at age 50. The physical demands that we put on these folks are really quite something. And in fact, there's a couple of things that are really important for you to know. You know, if we're lucky, we could live to the age of 77. That's the average life expectancy of the rest of us in the world. Corrections officers have a life expectancy of 59. They don't live much longer after they retire because of the mental health challenges, the trauma, PTSD rates greater than soldiers returning from conflict. We're not servicing them well in that regard, and we need to get them. You can't do this job forever. It's a very physically demanding job and a mentally challenging job. Same with the mental health, staffing the mental health facility. We have recently we had a traveling nurse at the Berlin facility, the Vermont Psychiatric Care Hospital, who was assaulted so badly that they really were questioning whether she was going to make it. She was in ICU for a number of weeks. Our members experience a lot of physical attack from folks who don't know any better. They're not doing it intentionally. They are ill and they are our members are trying to help them get better. But in doing so, they endure a great deal of stress, both physical and emotional stress. And so our members are concerned about that and are, as part of the safety and security umbrella, that is an issue that we're also going to be trying to work on this year.
Yeah, Representative Morgan.
Yeah, Steve, just to reattack, I apologize if I missed it in your dialogue, and pardon my ignorance on the subject, but the military credit, are you talking? So if you apply for a state job, if I'm brand new out of the gate and I've got 9 years military service, you get no credit for that, correct? For the state system, or do you?
For the pension?
Mm-hmm. Well, towards your time served, do you get, like the federal government, do state employees get that? I don't know the answer, so that's why I'm asking them.
So if you're not receiving a military pension, right now, Vermont provides a service credit for all of those who served in direct conflict.
Indirect conflict.
Up to the Vietnam War.
Okay, that's what you're.
After that would stop.
We basically have to include like GWOT on it.
Yeah, global warfare.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not inclusive, right? But again, just use me. I did 9 years of active duty before I spent 29 in the Guard. Had I would come in brand new out of the gate, I left the active duty, let's say, and came in and applied. There is no credit for that, is there, for state employees?
You mean in the application process or in the
Well, for
retirement?
instance, if I get hired by the federal government in a civil service position, you get credit for that 9 years of service. You have to buy it back. There's a buy down. It's very cheap. It's like 3% of your base pay for that 9 years. It's worth buying. It's worth it. You know what I mean? The state doesn't have anything comparable, do they?
We do for up to Vietnam.
Okay, but only for
It's just like it hasn't been updated.
only for direct combat, direct
I believe it's
No.
the two.
any active duty service.
The
think you can get up to 3 years.
Up to 3 years.
You can buy more, I think, after.
Let's get into this minutia later.
Well, I just,
Yeah, you
guess
know,
you said there was some legislation, said I just wanted a little backdrop on it, so we'll see more, so.
I totally understand. I totally understand.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just,
yeah.
I'm just curious how the two were, if they paralleled each other in any way, shape or form, so.
Yeah, I don't want to,
More.
I'm not to speculate, and I'm afraid if I say it, I'll say it wrong because.
No, and I saw that look in your face.
Yeah.
If you get a chance, you don't mind sharing,
Yeah.
if you have an opportunity, because I'd be happy to help you, work some of that.
Okay,
Yes,
Great.
no, for sure. Yeah. Please proceed. Yeah.
so I think those are our basic, priorities and the bills that we're working on, this year that I think would come under this committee. Oh, the only other thing I think I should mention, and I don't know how much this is on your radar screen, but it is definitely a government operations issue. Last year, we passed Act 119, which is the reorganization of the Agency of Human Services. I know that's an issue that they're going to touch on in Human Services, but our members have a lot of valuable information about how they believe the agency should be organized. And they have some concerns about potential changes that have been at least considered by the administration. One in particular that should be on your radar screen is we're thinking about the substance use crisis that we are all experiencing in our communities across the state. We have a great division of substance use in the health department that is making great strides on overdoses and really taking a public health approach to the issue. There's a lot of concern from our members in that division about merging that division with the Department of Mental Health, moving that over to the Department of Mental Health. Our members don't believe that it would be a positive move for the state in its efforts to combat substance use disorder. And so we hope that won't be part of the report, that there's an update coming on February 1st, and then final recommendations in the fall. So our members want to be involved in that discussion, both from the health department and Department of Mental Health. But as you can imagine, across all of the Agency of Human Services, our members have a lot of thoughts about how the agency should be or should not be reorganized.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a big conversation. So any questions from the table for Mr. Howard?
Actually, Michael actually asked wrong.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a conversation I'm very interested in having in and around the pensions. All right, well, thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Howard, and
If you're around tonight, the Vermont Working Vermonters Caucus and Working Vermonters, the AFL-CIO, the SEA, we're having an event at the Capitol Plaza. I think it starts at 5, goes to about 7. We're calling it speed dating, which I really hate because I hate the concept of dating, and the speed dating makes me feel like I would run the other way if I didn't have to go, but that's what they're calling it. And it's just an opportunity to spend about 15 minutes with the major labor unions in the state, just get a sense of what they do and who they are. But if you want to come, please come.
all right, well, thank you for making us aware of the event.
Thank you.
We have the folks from the CCB joining us, but we still have a few minutes till it's start time, so I'd like to take a break for everybody to run to the bathroom, maybe do what they got to do real quick to get situated, because we're going to roll right into this.